to a brother who gave much love to the music. He gets much respect. Can you dig it? Yeah!
Well, I think we have a lot to talk about. You know who I am. Michael P. America. Yes. Welcome to the show. Let's get right down to it. Or as Kool and the Gang likes to say, get down on it. Wow, I'm totally against war. I think war is the most ridiculous thing that mankind could ever be involved in. It doesn't make any sense. And people will try to justify it. You can't really justify it. Potentially millions and millions of people die every time there's a war, either directly or indirectly. Cost is phenomenal. It's incredible what it does to the environment, total destruction to the environment. When talking about greenhouse gases and global warming and all of that, I know the deniers out there that are on the payroll of the 10% of the wealthiest people that just want to keep grifting off of society. And of course, they're pretty sadistic about their idea of humanity. They want to torture us all because, I don't know, maybe they're tortured. Who knows? War makes no sense, but we're not going to get into that today. Well, a little bit, but not quite. Hagglesworth or Hegseth or whatever his name is, personally wants to test each soldier's testosterone. You can take that all over the place. Sounds like, I don't know, guy in the closet trying to rebrand himself, hypermasculinity. Maybe he's got a whole different concept when it comes to good. Sorry, Campbell's. Couldn't help it. But something's not right with this dude. Even when you look at his history, it's definitely not right. And I don't believe most of the stuff that they're saying about him because he just seems to be psychologically lacking in every sense of the word. He wants to test testosterone. He doesn't know what he's doing. I don't know. Was it the pharmaceutical companies because they want to make money? This is not the first time that this has been tried or it's been done. And the results are always the same. It's always these guys that keep trying to pump somebody's testosterone. It doesn't come out the way that they want it. For so many reasons, because testosterone doesn't necessarily work the way that people say that it works. When you read the reports, all right, women have more estrogen, men have more testosterone. But because you have more testosterone, it doesn't make you a man machine. And that's kind of the issue, right? But they didn't get that memo. And so I have a lot of family that's been in the military, some that are still alive, some that aren't. We go back several generations, like I said. My family was around before before the United States was a country, right? Let's talk about core ingredients for great military performance, all right? Now, this is historical analysis coming from the U.S. Department of Defense and military research institutes. So, Hagglesworth's own department says military effectiveness depends on a combination of factors supported by doctrine, training, studies, okay, and historical analysis from organizations such as the U.S. Department of Defense and military research institutes. Foundational elements, leadership, clear command at all levels that inspires trust and makes sound decisions under pressure. Well, these guys are irrational now that are in charge of stuff, so you can throw all of that out the window. So maybe that's why they got to drug the troops up, right? Training and discipline. Well, they seem to like criminals because they are criminals themselves. So, you know, the real criminals that are really good, you don't know anything about them. You don't even know who they are. The ones that you can see coming, they are so delusional because they think that this dance is going to last for them. Training and discipline, rigorous, realistic preparation that builds skills, reflexes, and the ability to operate effectively in chaotic conditions. Really? Too much testosterone? That doesn't sound like that matches. Unit cohesion, definitely too much testosterone. Doesn't sound like that works. Strong bonds of trust and teamwork within small units, which research consistently shows improves combat effectiveness and resilience. None of these mention testosterone. Physical and mental factors, physical fitness, high levels of strength, endurance, and agility required for sustained operations, okay? They might be able to argue with that one a little bit, but we'll go into some of the testosterone effects, and then you'll see, nah, it's not going to work. Mental resilience, the capacity to maintain focus, manage stress, and recover from setbacks without breakdown. You geek somebody up on steroids, they have this thing called roid rage, okay? In entertainment, we saw it a lot. Especially in the 80s and the 90s, we saw so much roid rage, you couldn't believe it. Diana Ball, people using that stuff. All right. Operational supports, that's another one. Strategy and tactics, well-developed plans, adaptability, and the ability to outmaneuver opponents. He's ousting all of these people that are seasoned military guys. Then he's telling these guys that are left that they really won't have command over their troops. So if they try to shore up their units by possibly moving people around or getting rid of certain folks, nope. Hagglesworth is saying, you don't have to listen to them, come talk to us. Remember he tried to shame all those generals? As if he qualifies. Are you kidding me? Logistics and technology, reliable supply chains, modern equipment, effective maintenance that keeps forces combat ready, moral and motivation, a sense of purpose, fair treatment, and belief in the mission that sustains performance over time. With all the hatred and vitriol, the racism, the insane rhetoric that's coming out of the Trump administration, morale and motivation is totally going to be in the toilet. So I guess they're going to need to be absolutely stoned. Okay? You'd be a fool to fight for these guys, honestly. Because one is that they're insane. Two, they're all about the grift. And three, you don't matter to them and neither does your family. Not to mention, four, they're totally anti-democratic. They don't believe in democracy. And they don't believe in the Constitution. Okay? They believe that they should be able to do whatever they want to whomever they want to do it to. Okay? Remember the dual state? We talked about the dual state, right? Okay. These elements work together. No single factor dominates. Outcomes depend on how they are integrated and applied in specific contexts. Okay. All of this is in military field manuals, after action reports, studies from institutions such as the RAND Corporation. Yes. Okay. So we're going to get into the testosterone business and how much is that going to cost us, the American people? Military testosterone testing policy, science and myths. Now that was my thing, all right? And the reason why, because you heard that the U.S. military now mandates annual testosterone screening for service members age 30 and up. Get the president in there and get Hagelsworth or Hegseth. He probably would enjoy it. Okay. All right. Experts warn that policy overstates the link between testosterone and combat readiness and ignores medical best practices. Yeah, because they don't care about the people. They're just going to use them all up, go grift and steal, and then find somebody else, right? So what is the medical and scientific context of all of this? Testosterone testing diagnosis requires more than a single test. This is according to the American Urological Association. It says that low testosterone is diagnosed only after 2 separate morning measurements and the presence of symptoms, such as reduced libido or erectile dysfunction. So it's definitely not intended for whatever these guys are. This just sounds like some old stuff, and you find these groups that would ingest animal semen, or you got some of these countries, and I'm not going to name them, that have weird practices where they have the rite of passage for young boys to digest the semen of adult males. I mean, just some weird, freaky Catholic molestation priest stuff is what it sounds like to me. All right. Natural variation. Testosterone fluctuates daily and declines with age, but it's not always a health problem. False positives. Mass screenings of otherwise healthy men can mislabel normal variation as deficiency. Okay? TRT risk. Potential side effects include suppressed sperm production, infertility, and I'm talking about if you start taking the treatment, okay? Potential side effects include suppressed sperm. Boy, that should just throw that hypermasculinity right out the window. That's just going to make these guys that already feel inadequate, feel even more inadequate, right? I mean, it suppresses sperm production. It creates infertility, blood clots, hypertension, acne, and mood changes. Hello, roid rage. And it's a long-term treatment. It's not overnight. So this is the other thing. Their pharmaceutical lobbyists, are trying to get more into the Department of Defense, right? So they had a safety trial. I guess it was called the Traverse. Studied men aged 45 to 80 with diagnosed hypogonadism and cardiovascular risk, right? Not healthy younger troops. Major endocrine societies caution against broad screening without symptoms. So you're going to ask them, feel like you can't get up in the morning until you have your cup of Java, maybe your testosterone is low. And you go, yeah, I got that problem. And everybody who's hooked on coffee psychologically already has that predisposition. I can't get up in the morning. I'm like, well, I think your testosterone is low. Why don't you come in here and the Hegelsworth would like to examine you, okay? I can't help it. This is so insane. But Every day they come out with just the most ridiculous stuff. Seriously. It would be hilarious if it wasn't happening here. Tell yourself it couldn't happen here. Judge for yourself its believability, and then tell yourself it couldn't happen here. But guess what? It's happening here. So what kind of myths and missteps? Testosterone, this is a myth, equals combat capability. Man, if Robin Williams was still around, he would have a field day with this stuff, right? Evidence does not support testosterone levels as direct measure of military performance. And we just went over what the military says that really makes a great soldier, right? So it's not a direct measure of military performance, training, sleep, nutrition, mental, military performance, I'm sorry. Training, sleep, nutrition, and mental health are equally more important than how much testosterone you really have. Low testosterone is common and harmful in healthy troops. This is a myth, right? True deficiency is rare in this demographic. Right? Testosterone treatment is always beneficial. That's a myth. It can be life-changing for symptomatic men, okay? Not saying that they're going to go out and be Rambo. This is all in the hypermasculinity, and they're just. I think there's something else that they're trying to do, and I have an idea exactly what it is. All right, it can be life-changing for symptomatic men, but it is not a universal solution, and it carries risk, okay? And it's not a little dab of testosterone will do you. This is a lifetime commitment, okay? Policy is purely medical. This is a myth. It's not. Critics note that framing taps into the manosphere, hypermasculinity, the guys that feel like that they've got one foot in the closet is probably what's really going on. Ideas linking testosterone to manhood and its lethality, right? Don't bite on this one. Do not bite on this one. This is just total BS. And it's going to be more grifting. This is just the most insane thing. So here's the associations with having too much testosterone. Mental health challenges, right? Major mental health challenges. There's a strong emphasis, and this is when it's definitely mixed with, an outfit like the military. Strong emphasis on emotional suppression has been linked in studies to higher rates of untreated depression, anxiety, and elevated suicide risk among men. So you add those two together, and you're creating a powder keg of things. Interpersonal difficulties, rigid adherence to dominance and stoicism correlates with challenges in forming close relationships, reduced empathy, expression, and higher conflict in partnerships. So to me, it sounds like they're trying to make zombies, because I'm sure there's going to be a cocktail of stuff. Behavioral risk, increased aggression, roid rage, substance abuse, now we've got addiction, and dangerous risk-taking behaviors appear more frequently in groups where hyper-masculinity norms are strongly reinforced, and you're gonna mess around and add some other drugs and testosterone to the mix. Physical health impacts, delayed help, seeking, getting help for medical issues, higher engagement in physically hazardous activities are noted associations. Okay. Male suicide statistics in most Western countries, men account for 75 to 80% of the suicides. And so I think when you put those two together, that number is going to grow a little bit. Now, this is coming from the American Psychological Association. And I just think that this is absolutely insane. What they're selling is the grift. They're finding a way to make more money for their constituency. That's exactly what they're doing. And so I think that somewhere along the line, we need to put our foot down. And here's the other thing. You've seen these ICE guys. Some of these guys look like little refrigerators. Like these January 6 dudes, they just gave them a job because they had no problem saying Heil Hitler and, hating everybody. And, Papa Trump is, showing them a little love by bailing them out and giving them jobs, more money than they probably ever made. $50,000 to go work for ICE, starting out. These cats are like, yeah, I'll go bust somebody's head. I don't know them. Until they start busting your head, or until people start pushing back, and it's not going to be that easy. And then you actually have open conflict on American streets. You already see we have these shooters out there right now. Imagine if they all get together and just decide that they've had enough. And then we have a bunch of militias that Higglesworth and Trump do not command, that are all on standby. Trust me, I've heard from them. They're out there, and they've got just as many in their militias, even more so than the United States military has. So maybe that's why they're trying to push their numbers up. But I think they want young people, and they're going to take these older folks and they're going to make a deal to either push them out, or they're going to find a technicality to get them out, and they're going to get all these young folks who are absolutely clueless, and some of them looking for father figures, male figures, and they're the ones that are going to drink the Kool-Aid unknowingly until they find out one day that Kool-Aid is bad news. This is not new. I think what's new in America is that we try to tell ourselves it's not happening here, but it is. And as they used to say, it's in Technicolor. We have to decide what kind of nation we want to be. You hear me say this every single show, because all of this is BS. This is all ridiculous. This stuff makes no sense. You would have to be absolutely insane to agree with it. Trump's administration is just grifting. I'm going to leave it at this. And he's going to tear up everything. But I'm checking out. I'm Michael P. America. And all I got to say is, for sure, we need to make a decision. Do we want our democracy? Or do we want people like Hagglesworth and Trumpenstein, or Trumpenstein, or whatever you want to call them, all these names you guys come up with? They're going to run this all into the ground because they're destroyers. They run their mouth. They're really good at running their mouth. They're just high volume salespeople that work for the real power. If you look at their policies, the policies really haven't changed. What's really gotten intense is the assault on the people. Ooh, I got a misspelled word up there. Just saw that. Well, didn't get rid of that extra C. I know. Can't help it. I'm Michael P. America. Let's make the change. Let's be better. Let's fight for democracy. Let's put these guys out of business. I am out of here.
The Michael P. America Show? Wow.